This is James, the comic book Shifu, and welcome to Read More Comics. On this video, we're going to explore some of the books in my read pile. As I've mentioned in prior videos, my reading habits since the pandemic have evolved to a state where rather than reading week to week, as I'm picking up comics from my local comic book shop, I tend to accumulate them over time. I have a short box set aside just for this purpose. I also, therefore, have a short box that I've set aside for filing books. Right now, it's starting to get a little too full, and so I'm going to have to work through that over the weekend, narrow that down, file books away. There's some books that are waiting for their own short box, or it's a particular genre. Like I have some giant books, larger editions, not larger in size, but larger in page count, anthologies that really just need their own box for other books of similar type. Apologize, my dog is looking at some little kids outside and she doesn't like them, so we might hear her as we're going through the video. Anyway, over the past weekend, I was able to get caught up on several of the maxi or miniseries that I'd been kind of accumulating for that moment. Some of them were personal choice. The first one, honestly, and I'll be going in alphabetical order, wasn't because I chose to wait, but it was just dragging out. And I finally decided, instead of trying to read it, even in part, 2 or 3 issues, I was just going to wait until all the books came out and read them through. And it turned out I only had 3 to wait. I don't think it was because of the writer. This is a Tom Taylor book, and Tom Taylor seems to be pretty Johnny on the spot when it comes to getting scripts in on time. My gut tells me it was the artist. I haven't read many books that had this particular artist. Why don't we just go ahead and get to the book? I can share what I thought about the book. That's my goal. Try to keep a spoiler-free review. And then move on to the next. Hopefully, through this process, there'll be some books that intrigue you that maybe you'll look at picking up in trade or single issues. At least that's the hope. That's my goal in this spoiler-free review. So let's start with this. The first series, this is Dark Knights of Steel by Tom Taylor. There we go. And Jasmine Putri. The artist is on point with this. She's mostly done covers in the past that I have found very collectible. But I think it was the artist. I suspect it was the artist that kept the book from coming out in a timely manner. As I was saying, Tom Taylor seems to be on point. He's Johnny on the spot and has several books going on. And it doesn't seem to be an issue with other series. Anyway, what attracted my attention to this was the creative team, both Tom Taylor and Jasmine Putri. Tom Taylor is, I put him easily in my top 5, maybe even top 3 writers right now that I'm following. And so when it was announced that he was going to be coming out with I would call it an Elseworlds book or Elseworlds style story, for those of you that are familiar with Batman Elseworlds story, I think it totally fits that. It's not a black label book. It is appropriate for a broader audience. So if that's something you're considering, you want to keep that in mind. This started out as it's similar in some flavor to Superman Red Son, where you have, instead of Superman arriving in Earth in Kansas, he ends up in the Soviet Russia. Here, it starts with the L family. Instead of coming to Earth in the present day, they're coming to a fantasy world, a medieval world. It's really not Earth per se. It's difficult to place it, and there's not a lot of effort put into establishing the location of this place, which is okay, because once the story elements are introduced and the plot begins to move forward, the exact place of this is irrelevant, as it is more of an Elseworlds book. What ends up happening is you have a triumvirate of medieval style kingdom, fantasy style kingdoms that are in a state of balance with each other, where they're countering each other. One is Themyscira with the Amazons. Another is a kingdom led by the House of El, which had formerly been ruled by King Wayne. Yes, that's of Batman fame. And then there is another, and it's escaping me, who was the ruler of that. It was something to do with electricity. Anyway, all the superheroes you would expect to find and supervillains you'd expect to find in almost a Justice League style book are in here. You have Poison Ivy and Harley Quinn, you have Constantine, you have Green Arrow, you have Martian Manhunter, on and on and on. And so, again, spoiler free, it has that flavor where something is happening to upset the balance between these three kingdoms. And you're following through kind of the eyes of Bruce Wayne, who ends up being an enforcer for the House of El, kind of the leader of their secret police, as they have outlawed magic in the kingdom. He is trying to gather and arrest with his robins, his little birds, which are all of the Batman family, and imprison them so they cannot bring harm to the House of El. It's a really engaging story, a lot of fun to read this and read how Tom Taylor turns kind of modern day superheroes into these fantastic characters, fantastic, i.e. fantasy. Highly recommend this. Definitely worth picking up in trade. Because of my reading style, instead of going month to month and reading it in chunks, the last act did not have the impact that it probably would have if I'd read it on a month-to-month schedule. But that's on me. That is not on Tom Taylor. Jasmine Putri's arts are on point. So definitely recommend Dark Knights of Steel. I went with all the variant covers. Let's see, it was... I'm drawing a blank on who it was. Anyway, went with the variant covers. They came in cardstock, which I prefer. That's one of the strengths I think DC has going on over the other of the big two, Marvel. So we're going to actually look at some Marvel books next. These books right here are Edge of Spiderverse, number 1, 2, 3, and last but not least, 4. We need to pull them out here. I apologize for that. It's been a long day. Edge of Spiderverse is an anthology series. Each book focuses on several otherworld spider figures that play a prominent role in it. This one, for example, is Spider Rex, and then Spider Venom Rex. I don't know what you'd call this. Anyway, this one is kind of it's meant to be a farce. So I didn't find it as enjoyable. But the thing is about anthologies is you can enjoy what you want and you can skip the stuff that doesn't kind of connect with you. The stories in this issue, there was one story I really enjoyed. It wasn't the opening story. It's the same with the first one. In issue number 3, I enjoyed both stories. This one right here is probably a key for 2 reasons. First, I think this is the 3rd appearance. No, this right here is the reveal of Spider-Boy's name. Right here we see on the cover. But and it gives some backstory. I know by this point in Spider-Man, more has come out about who he is and how he has gotten to the 616 universe. But also, and I think this is something that might be overlooked for, I think this is one of the first standalone story for Billie Morales. Miles Morales' sister from the not the Ultimate Universe, it's a variant universe. I'm not sure which one it honestly is. It's spun out of the last volume of Miles Morales Spider-Man. While Miles has an opening in this, most of the story is from Billy's perspective. And so I think this is probably going to stand as one of her first standalone stories. And then we have issue number 4. And again, the nice thing about these books, you read what you enjoy. And some of these stories connected with me because of who the characters are and who the writers, the creative team are. And others I just skipped over. And so I would recommend an anthology series like this. You'd be able to pick it up in trade. If you are looking at spec and trying to add some value, this book right here is a minor key, I think. I don't know if it's going to have any great value in time because I'll be honest, I don't know how much endurance the Spider-Boy character has. Does he have legs to be like the next Miles Morales, or is the next creative team of Spider-Man going to kind of take a hard right and Spider-Boy becomes a part of the mythology of the House of Marvel? What is that? The House of Ideas. That's what I was looking for. So this last one is Hairball. Let's pull back here. This is by Dark Horse. The creative team is Matt Kindt, Tyler Jenkins, and Hillary Jenkins, a married couple. Okay. Matt Kindt did all the A covers. These are the A covers right here. And there you go. It's a 4-issue miniseries that came out earlier this year. I picked it up because I'm going to be honest, I like cats. And so Matt Kindt is, I think I'm pronouncing the name correctly, he is a writer that I do follow. He's not to the same degree in my mind as Tom Taylor, but I read some Exo Manowar a few years ago by Valiant. He was the writer. I really enjoyed his work, and so I've kind of followed him and books that have dropped, and if it's something that attracts my attention, that it would be something that would appeal to me, I'm going to pick it up. And so this is how I started with Hairball by Matt Kindt. I have a mixed feeling about this book. On the one hand, it opens really strong. It gives kind of a horror vibe to it, and the cat is coming across as the antagonist, and I think that's intentional. The art is kind of offsetting, but again, that's intentional because of the story and the mood, the emotion that the creative team is trying to create. And so I was okay with that. Later in the series, in the last few issues, it kind of went in a different direction than I expected it was going to go. And it wasn't a bad direction, but again, because I read it as 4 issues in one setting instead of 4 issues over 4 months, it gave me a different end product, a different feeling in this journey, which is really about a cat and his owner. Okay, and I'm trying, without giving much more information than that, I don't want to spoil this for you. If you like a cat story, it was engaging. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the art. It definitely is kind of set up for the potential of a sequel. If you look on the front cover, here we have a severed finger, so you get the feel of what they're going for. They're definitely trying to touch on kind of a horror vibe. It is similar in my mind to Stray Dogs a little, but I think where Stray Dogs was presenting the dogs as the protagonist, here definitely the cat is not the protagonist, at least from the get-go. And so you do get a very different feeling about that. The main character is this young girl that's adopted by this married couple. Stress ends up in the household because of the dynamic that exists, and then they also end up adopting this very unusual cat, which brings more stress and a dark twist to the story. So again, if you like cats, this might be a book you want to read. If you don't like cats, I don't know if I'd recommend Hairball because it's not going to connect with you. That's another episode of Read More Comics. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed what you saw, please like, share, and subscribe. And don't forget to read more comics. Thank you again.